Now his stomach is full and the voice in his head tells him no more vacations without Führer's cheese spread. Find yours today at most local grocers.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service, bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions.
There's no better way to spark a child's imagination than to get lost in the adventure of a good book. I'm Jenny Benson, president of NSEA. Working together, parents and teachers can help every child succeed. You can help by reading to your child and let your child read to you. Encourage reading in your home and make it a priority. Make reading fun and a time that you and your child look forward to spending together.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association on this station.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Play ball!
Ready for summer fun and ballpark vibes? Bring your pack to Haymarket Park for a thrilling season of Lincoln Salt Dogs baseball and unleash the fun. From May through August, the Lincoln Salt Dogs will be playing and the park will be popping with all the food, drinks, and fun you need for the perfect night out. Grab your friends, family, and coworkers and make plans now. Visit saltdogs.com to secure your tickets. Come on out to the park and unleash the fun.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Tune in to live coverage of Big Ten Media Days from the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, July 22nd through 24th on 93.7 The Ticket. Join Derek Pearson, Jay Foreman, Nick Sainert, and Austin Orman as they bring you exclusive conversations with Big Ten coaches, players, and sports media professionals while getting you ready for the upcoming college football season. Big Ten Media Days coverage is presented by Advanced Medical Imaging, Stevenson Smith Construction, Currency, Warhorse Casino, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and League One Volleyball.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back in to Ticket Weeknights. Harrison Arens on the 1s and 2s. As I got to change the banner here, this is no longer one-on-one with EP. We wrapped up. Shout out to Barry Thompson, Hosta Breezy, and DP joining us 6 to 8 for 2 hours. Great episode. You get the full crew in there. They all have very close backgrounds, all kind of from that same area, at least crossed over at multiple points. And we got to talk some Husker football as well at the end there with Coach Barry Thompson, as fall is right around the corner. And we will certainly talk about college football, maybe specifically Husker football, and we want to see in media days, but as well as just everybody else. But before we get there, I got to start off with what we just barely briefed on during one-on-one. And Hosta Breezy brought it up, but Damian Lillard, he's going back to the Portland Trailblazers after the Milwaukee Bucks waived him. He basically had the option, go pick any team that you want. Tough thing is, though, with that injury, again, first round of the playoffs, I believe it was an Achilles tear. Let me double check that. Yeah, Achilles injury. So he's going to have to rehab this entire next season. So you're getting a guy in Damian Lillard that, as great as he is, you're not going to have him an entire year out. So right there, it's going to be tough to find a team that's willing to take you on, knowing that you're going to have to rehab an entire year. And then hopefully, if you're healthy, you can come back for the 27-28 season. And then after there, he has a player option. And what's awesome for what I think the Portland Trailblazers did is his contract, after that 27-28 season, that final year, he'll have the player option. The contract also is reportedly having a no trade clause, which is just a massive sign of respect. The only player in the NBA, by the way, who has that is LeBron James, that no trade player clause in there. So super respect for Damian Lillard. And I think the thing you're hoping for is he going to go be that guy on that team and take him to an NBA Finals? Likely not, but you're just getting that veteran presence there. And if there's a guy that knows Portland basketball better than any other player out there, I mean, it's Damian Lillard's the guy. He's going to know that organization front to back. He's going to know, the people in the office, probably even to the lowest guys on the roster. And when I say low, I don't mean of value, but in terms of where you're at, even the janitors, he's going to know their names. Like, Damian Lillard knows that city so well. And I think the veteran presence that he can bring to that Portland Trailblazers team is what's really the value there. So he's not going to be on the court actually playing in games, but he's almost reaching that Chris Paul role in a sense, where his job is to really help those younger guys take hold of an organization that's struggled since Damian Lillard's been gone and lead them finally to a better path. A path that, and again, a loaded Western Conference, can we start competing? Can our young guys start getting the reps that they need under the veteran leadership of guys like Damian Lillard? And don't forget, you got Drew Holiday out there as well. So Drew Holiday, another veteran player experience, great defensively. What I would have loved to see 10 years ago was Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard on the same court. I'm telling you right there, that tandem is a nightmare. Drew Holiday can take the tough matchup on whatever guard you got. That gives a huge breather for Damian Lillard. Now, you got to have some other defenders on that Portland Trailblazers court. Otherwise, they're going to find enough screens to get him in that mismatch that they want. But Drew Holiday is so good that even if they try some of those with him, Drew Holiday is a lot of times good enough to just go straight over the screen and stay locked onto his guy, refusing the switch that offense is trying to force. So you're not going to get that year one, but you're going to get the leadership, and you're going to have Holiday on the court. And then also, I think you could have somewhat of a magical year in 27-28 if they continue to add some more pieces. Maybe, again, I don't think it's going to be a finals run, but you can bring that pride back to Portland. And if you have Drew Holiday, Damian Lillard kind of leading the charge, and then if guys like Scoot Henderson, who I was really high on, and it just hasn't quite panned out the way you might have thought heading into the league so far, I thought he was the most polished. I thought he'd be able to plug and play the best. And it just hasn't been that. He hasn't been a horrible player. He hasn't, deserved to completely fall off of NBA rosters. He's still showing some promise. But this is why that veteran leadership, I think, is a massive deal to get Damian Lillard in there. It's like, all right, Scoot Henderson, this is where you're going wrong. And if it's the defense is the problem, Drew Holiday. I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a guard today that can show you the ways of elite perimeter defense and even interior defense. You try to go inside on Drew Holiday, he's just so strong and denying you the lane that you want. You might be 6'8", you might be towering over him, you might even be 7-footer. He's strong enough. If we're not talking about Steve Adams, Nikola Jokic, Ivica Zubac, any of those 7-foot centers, to hold his own against some of the bigger guards out there, even guys like Kawhi Leonard. And if Kawhi Leonard is giving you compliments on how strong you are, that's a big sign of respect because Kawhi Leonard is notoriously one of the, despite being, I don't want to say he's like string bean. I mean, his frame is there. You can tell the guy's constantly in some of the best shape out of all the NBA players out there outside of injuries, just the way he takes care of his own body. But he's notoriously one of the strongest guys in the league. And people talk about it all the time. It's like when you try to drive at Kawhi Leonard, the first thing you notice is like he just doesn't move. You can try to bury your shoulder into him to back him down. You can try to break by him and use the weight of your body and kind of lean against him when you're trying to go into the lane. He's quick enough to get in front of it, and he's strong enough to just make you pick up your dribble altogether. So with the Trailblazers, it's not going to go win championship rings with this current roster in my mind. There's always crazy miracles. We did see the 8-seeded Miami Heat who had, looking at the regular season, had no business making it to an NBA Finals and taking down the number 1 Milwaukee Bucks. But we saw Jimmy Butler really ignite. And Damian Lillard's kind of got that presence. Going to have to be in the 27-28 year where he can just take over games. And then Drew Holiday is just a veteran player at this point. He's got a ring. He's been with the Celtics. He knows what a winning culture looks like. I like the move a lot. To me, this is a win-win. You're kind of saving what would have upset me. A sad final chapter to Damian Lillard's NBA career. I couldn't tell you what team he would end up on if it wasn't the Portland Trailblazers, knowing that he's going to have to rehab that Achilles injury for an entire season. Same way Tyrese Halliburton's going to have to rehab his injury for the entire season next year for the Pacers. That stuff takes a lot of patience. But the difference between Tyrese Halliburton and Damian Lillard is obvious. One's old, on the way out of the league, and the next guy is your future. So you need to take care of it. Exciting if you're a Portland Trailblazers fan. That's the kind of hero's welcome that you would want to see. Because I understand why Damian Lillard wanted out of there early on. It just wasn't working. But the way things went with Milwaukee, you maybe got the sense that, the Trailblazers weren't always setting me up with necessarily the right players that I needed to go win a championship, but they respected me at the very least. And it never clicked there with the Milwaukee Bucks. And then when you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously upset where he talks about it in the media about the Damian Lillard trade, it just doesn't give you a good feel of where's the players and trust with the ownership, coaches, and GMs. With Portland, it sounds like it's all there. And again, that no trade clause with the player option, I think speaks to that a lot. So for the numbers, $42 million contract to join the Portland Trailblazers. Again, 35 years old. And this was after he was waived by Milwaukee Bucks July 1st, which if you're Milwaukee, one of the most expensive waivers I've really seen. The amount of years he had left on his contract, he had 2 with that much money. And again, if you're going to waive it, you have to double it and then +1. So 2 years of paying him becomes 4 years of paying him and then +1 extra year where you got to pay some extra money there. So you can split it up, the payments, to help you out. So it's not as extraneous on your payroll, but you're paying much more money at the end when you decide to do this. So I thought it was a bold move by Milwaukee, and I initially didn't like it. But now that you're sitting here, it's like, okay, I'm okay. If Damian Lillard can be a Portland Trailblazer again, I'm all here for it. And I know we played it once, but just for the sake of it, before we get off of Damian Lillard, his greatest moment and what, made me his biggest fan. It was the first, real NBA poster I got that wasn't ripped out of an East Bay magazine. If anybody, was growing up in my era where the East Bay magazines would come out, there was always a fold out poster in the middle. I think the first one I got was Blake Griffin. Obviously during that Los Angeles Clippers one with DeAndre Jordan. So I had plenty of those. I would fold them up. We didn't always hang them up. I just had stacks of them in my dresser. But the first one I actually spent money on, I was like, I want to get this and I want to frame it and I want to have it, nicely done. Not just a poster I rip up out of the magazine. It was Damian Lillard in 2019 after all the trash talk between the Thunder and the Portland Trailblazers. For the Thunder to go out the way they did, it was 3-0, I believe. And then they snuck one in there. And then Damian Lillard, enough was enough. They win that series in, I'd say, a surprising fashion, winning in just 5 with one of the, to this day, craziest buzzer beaters I've ever seen. I mean, it's up there with the Kawhi Leonard roll around the rim 10 times. It's up there with some of the Tyrese Halliburton crazy shots that he had at the end of the game there. I'm not going to say this is the best of the best, but watching it live at that point in time, I mean, this is as good as it gets. The stare down over Paul George late wait for the buzzer beater. Here's Damian Lillard back in 2019, sending the Thunder home with an immaculate buzzer beater over Paul George from damn near half court.
Chance to send the Thunder home. Lillard, long range three, and it's good! At the buzzer! Damian Lillard, are you kidding me?
He's going back to Portland. So, shout out everyone who's a Portland Trailblazers fan. I'm not a Trailblazers fan, but I've always rooted for Damian Lillard the same way I've rooted for Russell Westbrook, the same way I rooted for Kobe Bryant, the same way I rooted for Luka Doncic, and why I'm very upset that, Nico Harrison and crew got lucky with Cooper Flagg. There is something about guys like that's what makes the NBA what it is, to my mind. The offseason trades, the offseason, how many superstars can we get? The offseason, we saw it with Nikola Jokic. I mean, quick heads up for everybody out there. Don't take the media too seriously, especially sports media, until you cross-reference it a couple times. Happens every year with the Lakers, and I'm not trying to pick on the Lakers, but when you're the biggest fan base, you're probably going to have the most idiots in there as well. It just happens. You look at any population, going to have more bad individuals just because your population is that big. It happened with the Lakers this year. Nikola Jokic didn't immediately extend his contract with the Denver Nuggets, and everyone's like, oh, he's going to be going to the Los Angeles Lakers. I heard people reporting like, oh, maybe there's some interest there. There's no interest. It would be idiotic for him to sign that early. He was waiting to get a better deal, because if he signed it too early, the money would be less. That's all it was. So you get into that conversation in the offseason, and it drives sales somewhat through social media, through merch. You force fans to buy 10 different jerseys of one player because the player's hopping all over. And force is a strong word. I mean, people are actively taking out their card and buying 10 different jerseys of 10 different teams because my player was on all of those teams, and whatever alternates you want on top of it. Oh, that's fine if that's what the fan wants to do and spend their money. But there is something unique when you find those guys that are loyal to a city. Steph Curry's the same way. Kobe was the same way. Michael Jordan, and up until at the very end where he left and then he came back, and then he had the one stint with the Wizards. So I guess you can't entirely count him. But the loyalty with the Chicago Bulls at the time was 100% there. You can even argue that with the 3-year gap, but nonetheless, maybe that's a bad example to use Michael Jordan because his case was so unique. Trying to think of more guys. Dirk Nowitzki on the Mavericks, same thing there. LeBron James could have had it on the Cleveland Cavaliers, but sometimes you can't always blame the player because there's got to be some agreement between ownership and the players of like, okay, are you doing what you need to do to help me out, or are you being cheap? And we talked about that with the Cleveland Browns yesterday in the Shamar Stewart situation. It's like, you guys need to figure this out because you got your rookie first-round pick, and you can't figure out a deal. Is this because this player is, asking for too much? Is he being brash? No, to me, it reads like the Bengals are being cheap. He wants basically the exact same deal they gave rookie's first-round rookie pick last year. That's all he wants. Nothing more, nothing less. He just wants the same fair shake that they gave to the rookie last year. And they don't want to do it, in my mind, because I think they're being cheap. It just rubs players the wrong way. So that's my point. You can't always just blame the player from moving teams. And Damian Lillard, even when he left, you got to a point where he put so much time. I think he was 33, maybe even 34, 33 when he left the Portland Trailblazers. And really, 2019 was some of his most iconic moments. He's had some good runs before. Don't get me wrong. He's had plenty of great moments, but that one was probably the gem of all of them. And that's kind of hard to believe when you look at his career throughout the entire NBA. And now he's 35. But because he was there till he was 33, that short stint with the Milwaukee Bucks didn't taint anything. Because even the Trailblazers fans felt like, okay, I can't really blame this guy for leaving because it's just, man, he's given everything to the city. So you do run into unique cases. Maybe that's a little bit closer to Michael Jordan, where it's like you gave everything to the city. We can't ask for much more, but it makes those guys so much more valuable. And to my mind, it really helps the NBA. You lose offseason revenue potentially, but I think that's the thing missing from in-season is the real rivalries, the real guys night in, night out, where it's like, I know when I'm watching this team, not just this year, but for like the next at least 3 years, it's going to be Steph Curry on the Warriors versus LeBron James on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Why was those years so awesome? Even those Warriors and Cavaliers pretty frequently. And even though people would, they'd get to the Eastern and Western Conference finals and they'd be like, my team didn't make it, I'm upset. But they would still always plug in to watch that finals because that finals had some insane legacy going on with it. And you only get legacy with continuity. And that's important for people to remember. You can get individual legacy, but you're going to lose that organization legacy, that city legacy. Kobe Bryant doesn't have statues of him, multiple throughout LA and murals because he was team hopping and, his stint during the Lakers was really, really good and he won him a ring or maybe 2 rings. No, it's because he stayed there and he won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rings with that organization. And if you were a truly great player, those things are possible. You can figure out ways to stay with the team, and it's not always going to be a dynasty. Again, if you're LeBron James, you're talking about 20 plus years in the NBA. Obviously, you're not going to win 20 rings. You're going to have some down moments, but you wonder if LeBron James would have picked a home. I always think the Miami Heat would have been the place to stay. And the counter argument was, well, Dwayne Wade was doing this, Chris Bosh, we didn't know about it. All these players, it's like, okay, that's obviously going to happen in every situation. When things get tough and the response is to bail and find the next best situation, it's not, in my mind, not always the best move. You lose the chance to, I think, grow your own game and leading other people. And also, you give your organization a chance to reassess and use what, when those guys leave, you're going to have a lot of free calorie space or salary cap space. Use that time as to reevaluate. And then at the same time, you can still get the greatness of LeBron James, who's on the Cavs. Kobe Bryant, he wasn't winning a ring every single year, but those seasons, every single one of them with him was memorable, regardless of what the result was, because the legacy was keeping every season more interesting than the last. And that's a part that's lost a little bit in today's NBA. And this isn't me saying these players are forcing it all, it's their fault. No, I think the players are incentivized by the same way, some of the GM's loyalty towards them have gone. So it's a two-way road. This is not no one's individual problem, but it does, in my mind, hurt the overall product of the NBA when you're just constantly washing out the old and bringing in the new. And you're circulating guys around the league. We just talked about it yesterday with the Phoenix Suns. Be honest, did that hurt or help Kevin Durant's legacy? It hurt it. Did that help or hurt Bradley Beal's legacy? It hurt it. It's just wasted years in the NBA. And it's not wasted. They came home with paychecks. If they got families, the families are doing well. It's not like a complete wash. But if in purely just talking about NBA, what will you be remembered for? That is not the sole thing they'll be remembered for, but it will be on there at the end. And whether it's his fault or not, that's the risk you take when you go on the team hopping frenzy that a lot of the NBA has fallen, in my mind, somewhat victim to. And it's GMs, owners, players, all doing it in cohesion, sometimes behind each other's backs. We got to the point where James Harden forcing his way out of organizations by simply not being in shape, by not showing up to practices. Kyrie Irving, same thing. Holding separate practices at the Brooklyn Nets because I don't like Steve Nash. You're going to run into friction when you're constantly moving new faces. There is, if there's no real voice in the room, and why you see in certain situations, again, with like the Phoenix Suns, it's like, okay, who's the voice in the room? Kevin Durant because he's done it, or Devin Booker because he's been here and he's the guy that the city actually follows, or Bradley Beal, who maybe just because he's an outsider, he could be the man in the middle. To solve the riddle, they never found out. They never figured it out. There was no clear direction. It shows in the record. It shows in consistency. It shows in getting Monty Williams, up and out of there. All that stuff ties together. So that's why, to circle everything back to Damian Lillard, going back to the Portland Trail Blazers, those are the moves in the NBA that I like to see. Because those are the moves in my mind that brings the league back to somewhat what it used to be. Free throws, how we do that, the flopping, how we do that, it's another discussion. And to me, that one's pretty clear. That's 100% on the referees and the officiating crew. You cannot expect players to stop flopping if you're going to continuously reward it. And if you want to play the tough on that, if you want to start every season saying, we're going to really lock down on that, and then forget it, a month in, sometimes even less than a month into the NBA regular season, I don't blame players for not taking you seriously. I wouldn't. That's why even the guys like Jokic, who, first got in the league, you could see he was visibly disgusted if anybody tried to flop on him. And now today, you'll see it with him because it gets to a point like, why am I playing in different parameters if everybody else gets rewarded and I get punished? Especially a guy for Jokic who was like racking up 4 fouls, 5 fouls, sometimes even fouling out, and then off of flops, guys just doing the ticky tack stuff. And there's a difference between beating a guy to a spot and letting him run you over, taking a charge, than just outright flopping. So that, like I said, is an entire side tangent on how to fix the NBA. But I think the one part that somehow gets swept under the rug is the idea of legacy and following a team, not a player, actually has some value to it. It is not a mysterious thing to figure out. You want your team to have value, not the individual player. Now, it's great if that individual player is the cherry on top, but you're selling the team. If you're selling the player, as soon as that player leaves, we'll get ready for lower viewing or lower ratings. Get ready for, your fan base just tuning in and then tuning out when it matters and when it doesn't matter, because you don't have the same guys around. Even teams that aren't great, like the Portland Trailblazers, fans always watched because there was continuity and legacy. They knew the stories of the players that they were watching. They knew the stories of the coach, and they knew the ups and downs. Sometimes the bad stuff sells too because the faces behind it. And I think it's an important lesson. Seeing the hype around Damian Lillard going back to the Portland Trailblazers outside of Portland Trailblazers fans tells you that there is room for people wanting to see legacy at organizations. It's a hero's welcome, and I think rightfully so. We'll throw it to break there. On the other side, we'll talk Big Ten Media Days. You guys can join in 402-464-5685, and we'll just talk about who do we want to hear from most? Coaches, players, what team in particular, and then what do we expect to hear? What do we definitely hope not to hear? We'll talk about all that next. So don't go anywhere. Harrison Arens, like I said, we're going solo for this segment and then 2 more right here. 93.7 The Ticket Weeknights. Talk to you guys in just a little bit.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Nebraska Veterans Aid is here for veterans and dependents facing unforeseen financial emergencies. Get assistance with food, fuel, shelter, clothing, transportation, and even funeral and medical expenses. If you're a veteran facing a financial emergency, apply for Nebraska Veterans Aid through your county veteran service officer. Learn more at veterans.nebraska.gov/NVA. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Out here on Nebraska's calm, welcoming waters, fishing is a breeze. It's the sweet spot where solo anglers find quiet before the catch, families reel in memories, and first-timers discover what makes fishing so special. From the Panhandle to the Platte, the best fishing happens here, beneath Nebraska skies. Get started at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Men in Nebraska can be set in their ways, but they can also be quick to change their minds. Just 10 minutes can be enough to step back and rethink the life-ending decision of suicide. If you have a friend or family member who's struggling with depression, talk to them about temporarily storing their guns away from their home. Paid for by the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association in this station.
93.7 The Ticket is your home for every Kansas City Royals baseball game. Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and the rest of the Royals attempt to make the postseason for the second season in a row. And you can hear all the action on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Your home for Kansas City Royals baseball. Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back in. Second segment going solo. Once again, Harrison Arens on the board and on the mic. If you guys want to join in, 402-464-5685. That is the Starter Heyman text line, as well as Facebook, YouTube, X, Allo Channel 961. All great ways to put a face to the voice. And as promised, we're going to dive into Big Ten Media Days. We'll talk about some of the, well, we know the coaches. We'll dive into which ones we want to hear from most, and then the players who are going to be there as well. And if any of those catch the eye. And like I said, if you guys want to drive into a specific team, feel free to shoot on the text line, but I'm just going to go where I want to go since I'm solo here in the meantime. Obviously, the one I want to hear from most is Nebraska, but for sake of the argument, we'll put Nebraska at last, and we'll talk about some of the other teams I'm really curious about. Obviously, big one's Ohio State. They're the champions. How do they sound? Is that confidence level still there? And then I believe Ryan Day won't be there towards the end. Let me double check on that. Okay, so Ohio State will actually be going on day one. Okay, so their first day, Tuesday. Tuesdays, you got Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Nebraska, Ohio State, Rutgers. So those were the groups kicking off. Luckily for us, if you're hungry for Husker football, we're day one for Big Ten Media Days. So we'll get all our sound bites right away, which is kind of nice because then you can kind of sit back and listen to all the other teams speak. But for Ohio State, again, just for obvious reasons, you want to figure out how confident are these guys heading in and what do they sound like. They're bringing their safety, Caleb Downs, wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, no surprise there, and then linebacker, Sonny Styles. So right there's your three. They did not take a quarterback. They will be 1, 2, 3 teams of Tuesday that will not have a quarterback present with them. But nonetheless, I'm just interested. I'm more so about Ryan Day in his podium speech. Obviously, they start off every time with the podium speech before you really get into the player interviews. But for him, I wonder, confidence is kind of what I'm wondering here from him, because I talked about it off air with DP. It was crazy at one point last season that people were actually calling for Ryan Day's job just because they can't beat Michigan, a rival at that. It's one of those tough rivalry games, and everyone wants to freak out every time they don't beat Michigan. And rivalry games are weird. Just because you're infinitely better on paper, infinitely is a strong word, but much better on paper doesn't guarantee a win in those rivalry games. Like, you see it all the time. Those things get muddied up, and you just get a lot of passion, pride in there. And when teams don't want to lose, they will fight till that last minute. Even if the score looks ugly, you might get a chance where they pull something crazy off. Auburn, Alabama back in the day. Auburn didn't want to lose. They wanted to win badly, and became one of the greatest highlights ever. If you go watch college football, was Auburn obviously taking back the field goal that was short all the way to the house. Auburn did not want to lose that game for anything, and they become dangerous as a result. Obviously, it happens. Every game you don't want to lose, but subconsciously, that's something that happens in rivalries. So to hear the harsh criticism on Ryan Day and people calling for his job, it was insanity for a guy with the record that he's had there. And I understand it's been a while since you guys won a championship, but thank the Lord that, the AD over at Ohio State was smarter than, I'm not going to say all the burners. I'm not going to say most of the burners. I'll say about 30% of the Ohio State burner fan accounts, and then just real people straight up calling for his job. Good thing they didn't listen to them, because those guys were way off, and they were just upset over one rivalry game. I should say, you can go back a couple, but those Michigan losses really hurt his image in Ohio State. And that's what happens when you're such a winner. You have to be Superman after a while. Nothing short of that is acceptable. And when you do fall short of that, they start to think, well, it's definitely not our program. We're the best of the best. If the coach can't, beat Michigan every single year, clearly we got the wrong coach. Sometimes that's just the way the ball bounces. But luckily for Ohio State, like I said, they held on to Ryan Day, and they didn't listen to that. 30%, if you want to be nice, 10% of people that were legitimately calling for his job. Burners, real people, media members, it's nonsense. And to my point, they didn't, and they won championship. Other teams on Tuesday, Illinois. Obvious reasons I want to hear about Illinois. I've talked about Illinois a lot, and for a reason. The sneakiest 10-3 team last season. Like, no one was talking about Illinois. They really the way they should have been. 10-3. And then you end the year with a big win versus SEC. SEC's better. Well, they weren't in that game, and they weren't for most of those bowl games throughout bowl season. I mean, Illinois had an impressive, gutsy win over South Carolina. That's kind of the stuff that makes them interesting. 10-3, sneaky year. Nobody gave them as much credit as they did. Nebraska fans did for obvious reasons. Luke Altmaier had an absolute day versus us, and you tip your cap. He's going to be there again. They also got offensive lineman J.C. Davis, and then they're bringing the defensive back Xavier Scott. So those are guys right there. And the one, obviously, I want to hear Luke Altmaier. Has his confidence level raised? Does he seem like he's going to be a serious threat, which I think he will be? One of the better dual threat quarterbacks in the Big Ten, one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten right now. Like, just being real, this guy, whether he doesn't have the sidearm throw that, Dylan Raiola has, he's got a consistent throw, and he's got legs, and he's got really good pocket awareness, and he's got a good offensive line, and a lot of it's coming back. And he's got a good defense, and a lot of it's coming back. I think Illinois' confidence is they're going to be hungry this year. I think this is the year Illinois says, why not make the college football playoffs? 10-3, win one more impressive game. We can get in there with two losses. It's a big year for Illinois football. The Fighting Illini could reach the college football playoffs before Nebraska, the same way Indiana beat Nebraska to the college football playoffs. watch out for Illinois. That's all I'm saying. I think that is going to be an exciting, exciting team. And of course, Brett Bielema is just a quote machine. He's always a lot of fun at the podium. Pretty self-deprecating humor at times. Like Brett Bielema is one of my favorite coaches. It just really is. Even, over his time there at Wisconsin, I don't hold a whole lot of grudge for it. He was phenomenal in implementing what Nebraska used to do so well. And guess what? He took that at Wisconsin. He's also taken it at Illinois. You go watch, if you want to. I've watched it too many times already. Go back and watch the, Nebraska versus Illinois game. It's not like Illinois was being cute. They weren't throwing trick plays. They were just bigger and stronger, or at least they wanted it more. And what that allows you to do is you can run simple stuff and keep people guessing. Because when it's just that easy to go run and have your quarterback scramble outside the pocket, which again, that's why Luke Altmaier, being as good as a dual threat he is just problematic. Able to create plays when the one up front breaks down right in front of him and just pull it and run to the edge. Nebraska was guessing a lot in that game, trying to figure out what is Illinois trying to do on this drive, because they're kind of getting us on a little bit of everything. And that's what happens when you have not just a dual threat quarterback, but an accurate, consistent dual threat. I think dual threat gets used a little bit too lightly sometimes. It's like, oh, he's dual threat because he can run. It's like, great, can he throw? Like, consistently throw the dime, because that to me is just a one threat. Like, I don't care if you're going to run around in the backfield. We'll prepare for that. But if you're not trusting your arm, don't call yourself a dual threat, because we're not worried about that part of your game. There's only one threat the defense sees, and that's your legs. So Luke Altmaier, though, is by all definition a dual threat quarterback. I mean, he can do both, and he showed it last year. And I think we're going to see it again this year from the Fighting Illini. Do they get over 10-3? High mark. But if you look at their schedule, it's in the waters. I mean, they wouldn't have to crazy overswing on and beating a lot of teams on their schedule to get to 11 wins. 12 wins would be a lot, but yeah, I'm telling you, you can go take a peek at their schedule if you don't believe me. From YouTube here, we got Bada Bling, if I'm saying that right. A lot of talk of scheduling release new. Would you rather play Oklahoma and Colorado every year, or Michigan and Ohio State? I'll add Penn State into that conversation. I'm a romantic when it comes to the rivalry games that really mattered. And what is happening with college football is kind of sad. And again, I'm a romantic with this stuff. You guys can disagree with me. I maybe hold on to the tradition too much. I'm fully aware that I'll be the lawn guy, like when I'm way in my 80s and just watering it with a hose. But you get to this point in college football where everything is about getting into the college football playoffs. And now that the college football playoffs is expanded, we're not just talking 4 teams anymore. We're talking 12. And if the SEC and Big Ten get their way, we're talking 16. And then I think I heard Missouri's head coach Drinkwitz say 30. What are we doing here? The problem is when you keep branching this thing out to the YouTube, Michigan and Ohio State. Let's just say like those are the tough games. Like we don't really need to play either of those games. We don't need tough games on the schedule. I would much rather play Oklahoma and Colorado because that sounds easier. And that's the era of just football we're in right now, is you just want the easier teams because there's 12 spots. You just need to win. The strength of schedule is not nearly as important as it used to be. And that's why the SEC is really going to skate away with the 8 conference games. And that's why the Big Ten is demanding that the SEC and ACC, if we're going to go with the 5+11 model, you guys have to play 9 conference games. Because otherwise, that's a load of rubbish. If we're going to have 16 teams in there and you guys can schedule in weak opponents to protect that win-loss record, so at the end of the season, we can't point at any losses, which in such a shortened season, weigh heavy, that's the problem. So I would love to play Colorado and Oklahoma simply for the rivalries. And also, to our point, it'd be easy. But what's even worse and what's happening, just get away from the rivalries. And again, I don't blame Matt Rule for this. I don't blame even Kurt Cignetti for this. This is just the way that we've created college football. And when I say we, obviously not the fans and the media, well, maybe some of the media, but like the real drivers, the money behind college football as it is. That's what's drove this decision. If you're Kurt Cignetti, why play Virginia when you can schedule one Kennesaw State? If Virginia is going to do nothing to really add any benefit, take the easy win. Same thing with Nebraska. If we don't have to play Tennessee to get into the college football playoffs, why would we? Because if we lose to Tennessee, then guess what? That's going to hurt us much more than if we play, we'll just throw in Troy. I'm blanking on the team we swapped him with. Houston Christian. Then if we play Houston Christian, if we win Houston Christian, not going to move the needle at all, but it's not going to hurt us either. If we beat Tennessee, it's going to move the needle for sure. But it's also going to seriously hurt us if we do not win that game. And that's the point. You're not taking nearly as many tough games because you're simply just looking at, I just need the wins. If I'm in the Big Ten and I got 9 conference games, I'm getting the easiest non-con schedule I can possibly fathom. And that's what's happening with a lot of these teams. And, you threw in Colorado in there. Why does the AD of Colorado want to play Nebraska all of a sudden? After all these years go by, and the rivalry kind of ignites, but now we're at a point after all this college football playoff, all this you're seeing guys like Matt Rule, Kurt Cignetti, and plenty of others. This is kind of a widespread thing. Why is it that Colorado would want to play Nebraska every year? Is it because of the rivalry? Unfortunately, I don't think it is. I think it's because in the Big 12, they need the game more than we do. If they could beat Nebraska, that's their non-conference game that they actually need, just because they're not in the Big 10 or SEC. So that's why you're getting that from Colorado. And that's why I already know Troy Dannon and Matt Rule are probably going to just shut that down and never even flirt with the idea. Because if you can get an FCS opponent in there or a Big 12 opponent, and the FCS opponent, is going to be the best path to college football playoffs, despite it being a weaker team, they're going to play that team because you don't need Colorado anymore. So it's going to hurt a lot of the rivalries. Obviously, a lot of those would happen non-conference. But I mean, that's just kind of where we're at. And that's why when people talk about the expansion of college football playoffs, that it's only a positive. It's only a positive. You're risking some of the regular season scheduling. You're risking the value of what made college football so intense, regardless if it's week 1 or week 10, is that every game had a significant impact on how you're going to fare. And now with 12, not so much. Still significant, but not so much. With 16, significant, definitely not so much. With 30, like the Missouri head coach said, yeah, now we're just getting silly with it. And the same thing goes for the March Madness tournament. Final thing from YouTube here. Hypothetically, if you could replace that Houston Christian game with any other team, who would it be? Colorado. Give me Colorado. I mean, honestly, that game was so fun. And Colorado wants that revenge. They want, even though they don't have Shador, even though they don't have Travis Hunter, they want to get us back. And I can't blame them for wanting to get us back because we whopped them. The same way how the reason why that arena was so packed was the trash talk and the way they beat us down in Colorado. And unfortunately, Jeff Sims was the ultimate kind of meltdown mentally game for him. That revenge was so strong in Nebraska's, taste buds that everyone, not just the players, the fan base was on level with the players in terms of wanting to run through a brick wall. You lose those games when you do just schedule on Houston Christian because you don't need it anymore. That's what you're losing. You're going to lose some of those awesome rivalries of the past. That's why college football playoffs, yay, more money. Is this truly, truly good for the sport? Does college football not have enough money? And that's where I always kind of fall on this stuff. Just because it's got more dollars to it, it doesn't always mean you're moving in the right direction. And you don't have to be a philosopher to understand that. All right, with that being said, there's kind of my rant on it. We'll talk more Big Ten Media Days and some of the other schools that I'm interested in. So don't go anywhere. Harrison Arens going solo here. One more segment on the other side.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Let it slip, it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
If you're a veteran, our nation has created a wide range of benefits to thank you for your service, but it can be difficult to navigate the process of determining eligibility, filing claims, appealing decisions, and securing the benefits you've earned. Speak to your County Veteran Service Officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. These services are 100% free, so visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
In Nebraska, we show up when friends need help. We check in on our neighbors. That's why it's important to know the warning signs of suicide. If you have a friend or neighbor who's withdrawn, stressed, agitated, or talks about suicide, find out how you can help. Call, text, or chat 988 for 24/7 support. You have the power to save a life. Paid for by the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association in this station.
93.7 The Ticket is your home for every Kansas City Royals baseball game. Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and the rest of the Royals attempt to make the postseason for the second season in a row. And you can hear all the action on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Your home for Kansas City Royals baseball. Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back in. Final segment. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always right here on 93.7 The Ticket, wherever you're at, as I'm here on 1040 O Street. Before we get to the best of the ticket, not just best of ticket weeknights, but best of the ticket. We'll have another hour of that. After me, we'll replay it and give you guys a little bit of extra local audio before we go national on the airwaves. Wrapping things up here, as promised, I'm going to talk about some of the other teams that I'm curious in. Next big one, Oregon. Oregon to me they seem quiet and they seem very, very upset. And if anybody knows what meme I'm referencing here, if anyone's seen it, where the guy's standing quietly in the corner and everyone else in the room is in chaos. Oregon kind of reminds me of the guy in the corner right now. Oregon has the money through all the crazy NIL house settlement stuff. You know, Oregon with that Nike money, they're going to find out a way to make it work, and all the resources that they have over there. You also understand they're probably very, very, very upset to go undefeated, and your reward was another game versus Ohio State, who you already beat. And then on top of that, even if you were to win that game, a game versus Texas, that's a tough road for Oregon to go undefeated. You would have much rather been on the other side of that college football bracket entirely. You'd much rather take your odds versus Penn State or Notre Dame and see how you fare in that one. But you get, to this point with Oregon where I think Dan Lanning's a phenomenal coach. Their quarterback, who we haven't seen a ton of, and I believe he's not going either. Yeah, so he's not going to the media days as well, so you won't get to hear from him. We haven't really seen him play, but they didn't go get a big-time quarterback. And if you go look at Oregon, they've been pretty consistent on making sure they have an elite quarterback at that position to lead them, whether they're homegrown or we got to go get an elite transfer guy. And a lot of times it's the elite transfer guy. You're kind of in this area now where you got a guy who's been there for a little while now, and more. Can he step up to the plate and be as good as what a lot of their quarterbacks in the past have been? And can he lead that team, I won't say undefeated, but can he lead them to a championship? Can he beat Ohio State, in the regular season? There's a lot on the line for Oregon as well to continue what they started. It's a 13-0 season is incredible. You go in and then you go win the conference championship game just to go 13-1, counting the postseason loss. So if you are Oregon, I think the real challenge for them is can we not let that thing sink us? When you have that great of a year and you fall short, it could sink you. Almost sunk the Warriors. Who knows if Kevin Durant can go to the Golden State Warriors? Because I think a lot of people forget that greatest Warriors team of all time with 76 wins and 6 losses, I believe is what it was for the all-time record. That team lost in a 7-game series. They've not lost under 10 times through 82 regular season games, found a way to lose 4 in 7. That is hard to wash out of your mouth. And I'll be honest, I don't know if they would have been able to do it unless Kevin Durant didn't go there. I'm not always the biggest Kevin Durant defender, but I think what Kevin Durant did when he went to the Warriors got way more dangerous, and he was a big part on picking that team back up so they plugged in right where they were right after. And Golden State then went on to win some more rings, but that stuff can sink you. Yeah, depending on how you handle that, but I do think Oregon's going to handle it the right way. It's going to be up to Moore if he can live up to the plate. Other teams I'm interested in, real quick here, we're running out of time. Yes, UCLA. Nico Iamaleava. He will be there. So I'm just curious to hear from him. Obviously, he had a somewhat of a scandalous transfer where it seems like things were in place. Then all of a sudden, he's up on the road, heading to UCLA. Hey, also, my brother's going to come here. Also, he plays quarterback, and I think he's only 1 year behind. So interesting situation there. But UCLA, they beat us last year. So I'm not going to talk down on them at all. UCLA is interesting. I think this is a team that could be surprisingly much better than people think. And a lot of that's going to fall on Nico Iamaleava's shoulders. And if he can, get it done over there. You got Deshaun Foster. He doesn't have Eric Bieniemy at his side anymore at that offensive coordinator spot, which I think was a massive help. And I think Eric Bieniemy schemed the hell out of Nebraska when they came up here. And to be honest, they punked us. They looked like the Midwest team. We looked like the California team. They were much tougher, much more physical. And Eric Bieniemy was a big part of that. But also, they had a good quarterback. You're just looking at ratings. Nico Iamaleava is supposed to be even better than that, or at least should be on paper. UCLA can be dangerous. And we'll get to hear from Nico Iamaleava himself on Big Ten Media Days. And again, that starts next week. The ticket crew, we're heading out Monday. I shouldn't say we. Those that are going are heading out Monday. And then Tuesday, they'll be there giving you all the content from Las Vegas. Appreciate you guys listening. Always a privilege to talk about this and get paid. I don't ever forget it. But that's going to wrap it up for me. More of the best of the ticket up next.
Ashiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future.